Well. To all of those that are back once again to request competitive history of Liu Kang, your time has come. And I am really so sorry it took so long. But here we are with by far the most requested character this series has ever had. And what a fitting character it is. Liu Kang is iconic to say the least. The original protagonist, the champion of Mortal Kombat, the first good guy in the series, a warrior who would defend Earthrealm time and time again, and when we're talking competitive play, is actually consistently good. Liu Kang has only missed a single entry in the mainline MK title, and the one he's missing being Deadly Alliance. Real ones know the reason why. However, in the many other appearances the character has had some tricks up his sleeve and then some, as a character who was designed to be easy to pick up and play, while giving reward to those dedicated to the character and wanting to push further. Join me today where at long last, we uncover the competitive history of Liu Kang. Starting off with the very first Mortal Kombat, Liu Kang makes his debut as a very strong character. One of the best in the game, in fact. There's a few reasons Liu Kang is so strong here, but let's go over his special moves first, because believe it or not, he's only got 2 of them. Fireball is a standard projectile, but it's nice and fast and it has decent recovery. And Flying Kick is a very fast advancing kick attack that is definitely his most prominent move for a number of reasons. So Liu Kang is really easy to pick up and play here, as both of his special moves are executed with forward, so doing his specials was effortless even for a beginner, which was definitely the idea. Liu Kang was meant to be someone that even a newcomer could just pick up and have some fun with. Liu Kang's buttons in this game are all decent, where his sweep has good range, his roundhouse is nice and high up on top of being fast, his uppercut allows for some decent corner combos, his jump-ins are powerful. Simply put, all of his buttons in this game are strong, and that's a powerful tool to have in a game as simplistic as the very first Mortal Kombat. Now, a major tool that Liu Kang has is the sheer speed of his Flying Kick. Now, it's no disrespect to say that the original Mortal Kombat is a very stiff and clunky game, which you gotta remember, this was 1992 and this was the first title. Mechanics and the like weren't exactly established because they had no idea the game would explode in popularity the way it did. That said, the reason I mention that is because in a game with poor mobility, Liu Kang's Flying Kick is a supreme tool that can punish lots of things, it can reposition Liu Kang in a tight situation, it can be an amazing combo conversion tool. This thing gave Liu Kang damage, mobility, punishes, it pretty much did everything. And giving Liu Kang punishes on certain moves that other characters struggle with makes Liu Kang stand out significantly. Now, there's not masses more detail to go into here because this is a very simple game. I love it, and it's really fun on older revisions with the huge combos, but ultimately, Liu Kang was often in many players' top 3 when discussing the best. He's certainly not better than Sonya, but nobody is here. He's right behind with Johnny Cage. Mortal Kombat 2 is essentially a much more sophisticated version of the original. You still don't have dashes or run, just walking and jumping for movement. However, Liu Kang kept his basic game plan and added to it significantly with new moves that gave him even more utility. Once again, making Liu Kang stand out as one of the more powerful characters in the entire game. He still had straight Fireball and Flying Kick, both of which are just as good here, but he also gains a low Fireball and the ability to perform a Fireball in the air. This air fireball is really good because outside of the obvious that an air projectile is going to be a strong tool in a game where forward movement is restricted, being able to convert any jump kick into a fireball or a combo ender is a fantastic base for combo hits. Whether it's an air-to-air, a deep jump kick or something else. Additionally, you can actually perform a jump kick and have it whiff entirely and still get an air fireball afterwards, making Liu Kang rather hard to chase down even if he's whiffing jump-ins all over the place. The final new special he gets in MK2 is the debut of his now famous bicycle kick. Here, you gotta hold down the low kick button for about 5 seconds and then release. Bicycle kick does really good damage on its own, it has very fast startup, and it's kind of weird to punish if you're not ready for it specifically. This is a pretty core move to Liu Kang's kit because it's unbelievably unpredictable, and its almost instant startup means that you've always got to be ready for this move. The bicycle kick doesn't actually share inputs with any of his other special moves, so Liu Kang can perform a bunch of his other moves, play a normal game of MK2, and still have the bicycle kick locked and loaded ready to release. Now, in many ways, the reason Liu Kang is good in the first MK is why he's really good in Mortal Kombat 2. The added tools of air fireball and low fireball and bicycle kick added on top of his mobility from flying kick, and his collection of really strong buttons, I might add, means that Liu Kang is definitely a jack of all trades. He can get in your face and pressure, he can zone you out and play a much more defensive game. He's got combos at a moment's notice, and in this game, those combos did a lot of damage. It meant that Liu Kang was a threat anywhere on screen, and he always had something that he could do. He was never at any kind of significant disadvantage, and that's why, on many tier lists for MK2, Liu Kang often sits around the top 3, joining Melina and Jax. Now, it is rare you'd see him above those two, but he is of that level to most players. With Ultimate MK3, Liu Kang keeps all of his moves from Mortal Kombat 2. Now, you would think that means he's just as good, right? Wrong! Liu Kang is often considered a low-tier character in both MK3 and Ultimate, mostly due to extremely low damage. And for the sake of this video and the fact that Liu Kang doesn't actually change much between Vanilla and Ultimate, we're going to talk about Ultimate only. I don't need to explain his special moves here because they are the same. What I want to dive into for this one are the mechanics and how Liu Kang approaches the new stuff to Ultimate MK3. Liu Kang has a fairly decent selection of dialer combos, some pretty large ones actually. He's even got a grounded launcher, which usually in this game is a strong tool to have access to. Liu Kang can even relaunch certain characters with his launching combo string, which again is usually a powerful tool. Unfortunately though, Liu Kang's launching combo string for some reason applies double damage scaling, which is why the damage for a successful launch is so low, even with multiple relaunches. The lack of damage is only applicable because of his double damage scaling off this interaction. Because if he punishes a teleport or something, or some other special move that doesn't involve the launch, he actually does decent damage. So this is Liu Kang's fundamental issue, and the combo strings are a crucial part of the offensive game that Ultimate MK3 is known for. Now, it isn't exactly all terrible because Liu Kang does have some decent stuff going for him in this game. His jabs are pretty damn strong, and his sweep is really good. Good jabs mean good pressure, in theory, and with pressure in this game, the flying kick does have some decent elements to it. Flying kick is a decent punish, just like previous Mortal Kombats, but there's one thing in particular that I haven't mentioned yet that's good in all 3 of the Mortal Kombats so far, but especially prominent here. You see, the flying kick at certain ranges can fly through the opponent or whiff entirely. This is usually decent for mobility, but in Ultimate MK3, this being able to whiff in the corner actually opens up a decent mind game. If Liu Kang whiffs the flying kick in the corner, the opponent is in a weird situation. Liu Kang can cross you up and force you to swap sides for a split second, he can throw you from this position if he wants, or he can combine it with jab pressure. And if you try and punish the flying kick, you have to stand up at the right situation, and if you stand up when Liu Kang makes a read, he can start basically jab infiniting you, which is a universally broken tool for Ultimate MK3. The lack of damage is the main issue that Liu Kang has, because if he had even decent damage, he'd actually be a decent character here, but sadly it is just too big of an issue for a character in a game like this, and Liu Kang, for the first time, is a low-tier character in the franchise. The final game of the arcade era, Liu Kang takes to Mortal Kombat 4 as a solid upper mid-tier character to many. Once again, the classic Liu Kang moves are fully retained, so that means fireballs, flying kick, bicycle kick, you know what's happening by now. But like in Ultimate, where I discussed how they fit into the mechanics more than anything, it's going to be the same thing here, but in a much better light, because Liu Kang's attacks work exceptionally well in MK4's meta. And for those that don't know, MK4 had universal normals and combo strings, so in many ways it was the weapon and the specials that would set characters apart from each other. The first thing is Liu Kang's Instant Air Fireball. Now, I'm not very good at doing this, but this is a really strong tool because you can do it super low to the ground if you have execution. This is a fantastic option because it locks the opponent down. It keeps them playing a game that you're dictating the pace for, and overall just a good keep-away tool. Liu Kang has one of the better weapons overall, which was a new thing to Mortal Kombat 4. It wasn't the best weapon in the game, but it had some decent stuff to it. It had some juggles that had decent range, and he had some easy confirms. Overall, it was a reliable weapon that complemented Liu Kang's kit, although you rarely saw weapons for an entire round in this game due to just how easy it was to disarm an opponent. The two big moves we have to talk about, and pretty much the main reason Liu Kang is good here, is the flying kick. The flying kick is straight up one of the best specials in the game because it is one of, if not the fastest attack in the game. It punishes almost everything that can be punished. It gives you an extra hit confirm situation from glitch jabs. It can close out long combos into that final bit of damage. It's basically great for every situation and overall just an insane move to begin with. Now, the other attack is Bicycle Kick. It's got a lot of offensive capability here. If a grounded Bicycle Kick lands, Liu essentially gets a safe jump into pressure. If a Bicycle Kick hits when the opponent's airborne, Liu Kang can combo from this with precise timing. Although his post-Bicycle Kick combos are definitely not easy. The Bicycle Kick mid-combo, or if you just let it rip straight away as they've jumped or something, will give Liu Kang damage from situations that other characters might not be able to get the same way. It is just tricky to do because you've got to hold low kick to execute the move, just like in previous games. Liu Kang's strong fireball game, effective weapon, respectable damage, and unreal utility from flying kick does make Liu Kang a respectably strong character in Mortal Kombat 4, and upper mid-tier is usually where he's located on a tier list. Honestly, you can't go wrong with Liu Kang here. He's doing pretty well so far. Now, it's time for the 3D console era of Mortal Kombat. Liu Kang was too busy kicking the bucket in Deadly Alliance to be playable, so his next playable version would be his return in Mortal Kombat Deception. The cool thing is, in his 3D debut and return to the franchise, Liu Kang would be a strong character once again. He's got a good track record at the moment. So, Liu Kang's special moves are actually okay here. His fireballs are decent, which, believe it or not, is rare in 3D Mortal Kombat. His bicycle kick is used mostly for combos, and his flying kick in this game is mostly used to get closer to your opponent. The main fighting style Liu Kang uses is Jun Fan, which has a ton of good buttons that all feed into the broken mechanics of Deception pretty well. Whether it's his standing 3 that gives a free throw, his 1-1 strings that have various extenders that go into throws once again, on top of being safe by the way, his low pokes all being decent on recovery and most of them backdash cancelable, and his sweep being safe on block for a quick low that goes hand in hand with Liu Kang's mid options. This fighting style gives you a lot of immediate tools that allow you to play a rock-solid game of Deception. The strange thing about Liu Kang's 1-1 string is that it isn't necessarily a mid in the usual sense, but it can sometimes hit a crouching opponent if they're not blocking, and even though it says 1-1 is a high, the second hit can still hit an opponent that's crouch blocking at times. Look, don't question it, it's just a 3D Mortal Kombat thing. His second hand-to-hand isn't as strong in the tools department, but it does have some stuff to it. 4-up-4 is a mid-launcher, 4-3 is a free throw, plus it had some really good walk speed, which is good for something that I'll mention shortly. Liu Kang's weapon is the nunchucks, but unfortunately it's not that great. He hasn't really got any mids here, so it's easy to get low poked and there's not much in terms of mix-up. He does have forward 4 as a mid, but it only works on one side most of the time, so not very good unfortunately. The stuff we want to dive into here is why he can excel at the broken Deception mechanics. Liu Kang has some throw loops due to the weird knockback state that his throw enforces. Anyone that's ever seen me talk about Deception knows about the whole walk up to the opponent at a weird axis and get a free throw thing. Yeah, Liu Kang can pretty much do the same thing. Not to mention some of his standard combos that can cause a splat animation that again is a free throw in a different sense. Liu Kang can loop this quite often, and it is one of the things that makes him super strong here. An impressive collection of pressure tools, safety, mids, lows, combo damage, and all that classic Deception broken stuff. Liu Kang can put all of this together to stand out as one of the more respectable characters in the roster. Upper mid-tier at least, but depending on who you ask, maybe even higher than that. Truth be told, the Armageddon section of this video is going to be very small because Liu Kang isn't all that different from Deception. The notable changes are that some of the strings in 113 in the extenders function a little bit differently on hit, and his nunchuck stance has some slightly different attacks attached to it, but none of them do anything special. Fundamentally, Liu Kang is not as powerful in this game as Deception, as some of his stronger tools like his second hand-to-hand movement speed and other broken options that Deception once had are no longer possible here. So although Liu Kang functions as an almost identical character, he is slightly weaker by comparison. That said, there are definitely weaker characters in this game, and Liu Kang is a solid sort of mid-tier pick, in my opinion anyway. Mortal Kombat vs DC Universe may have only had a few characters from each universe to make an appearance, but I suppose it was a given that Liu Kang would make it into the roster, and like many previous appearances, Liu Kang was an extremely good character, sometimes in the top 5 of tier lists, and sometimes just outside of it. Funnily enough, some of the combos and even some of the offense Liu has here is somewhat of a predecessor to what Liu Kang's combos would look like later down the line in future games. Some of it started right here. Liu Kang had some good buttons in this game. His 1 and his 1-1 were good safe staggers, also used mid-juggle for combo extensions. He had a low back 3, a mid-standing 2 that can go into the same low or other options. He had 1-1-2, 1-1-1. Overall, he had some mix-up options to establish offense, and some fast recovering strings to keep the pressure going should Liu Kang close the distance. Now, special move-wise, he has all of his classic moves yet again, but in this game, he gets an additional move called Dragon's Tail. This is a flip attack that has different follow-ups. A low, a decent pushback mid, a launcher. I mean, basically different enders to do different things. But the main one for Liu Kang is definitely his uppercut, as that opens up his combo game, and combos are where Liu Kang really thrives in MKDC. The reason combos are where Liu Kang thrives is because of the MKDC exclusive Pro Move mechanic. The act of doing a second input on specific specials at the right time to get an extended version, or allowing things to combo where they otherwise wouldn't. And Liu Kang's bicycle kick allows both the flying kick and the air fireball to extend if you do it Pro Move style. Any bicycle kick on its own can do 28% damage if you get both fireball and the kick. If you end combos with this, Liu Kang gets an easy minimum 40% off any touch. Watching old high-level footage of MKDC saw Liu Kang players use his flip kick a lot. The pushback made it pretty annoying, especially online with the old delay-based netcode, and on hit it yields huge reward where combo damage is nice and high. Liu Kang had a combination of easy damage, good buttons, fast recovery, and having options for different areas of the screen, just like the Liu Kang of old. In a game like MKDC, where characters are either really good or pretty damn awful, Liu Kang has often been within that rough top 5 area of tier lists as mentioned before, but really his final placement definitely depends who you ask. Right, with Mortal Kombat 9, we have a Liu Kang that is a bit more on the obscure side. A character who's always had some neat stuff, but we never really saw tons of Liu Kang in competitive play, mostly due to his archetype being overshadowed by other characters in the game. So before we start, let's take a look at what his new moves bring to the table. His special moves are all classic moves returning. Fireball and low fireball both return, with the air fireball coming back as well. Instant air fireball is a good tool because it can be done so low to the ground, and the enhanced fireballs do more damage, and notably, the low fireball enhanced is significantly more plus on hit, meaning if you use it for a mix-up, you can keep the pressure going, especially in the corner. Flying kick is really fast, and it's armored on enhanced, making it a good projectile punish tool. Bicycle kick is mostly used as a combo ender in MK9, however, the armored version on EX does a lot of damage for an armored move here. A new move Liu Kang has is parry, but unless it's like an X-ray like Johnny Cage, parries are not overall that useful in NetherRealm games, although you could, I don't know, counter poke on a read or something. Now you may be thinking, if you've ever played MK9, hey Ketchup, you forgot a special move here. What about his stance? Well, yeah, he's got a stance that can go into 4 different follow-ups, but it's actually not a special move. It isn't even listed in the special move section. It's treated as a normal attack for some reason, and because of that, Liu Kang can't actually special cancel into this thing. You'll mostly see this in corner combos with a juggle large enough to allow the stance uppercut, but the stance itself really should have been more important to Liu Kang in hindsight, but it just didn't work out the way you expect it to. It was used only in combos. Now, in regards to buttons, Liu Kang has a few key combo strings. Back 3-1-2 is a low starting, launching string that is safe on block, and it can be repeated into itself for an easy combo. This is kind of the day one Liu Kang combo that many of you probably remember, just getting taken coast to coast by this one string. Yeah, that's what you do. 2-1-3 is another launching string that ends in an overhead. Now, there is somewhat of a mix-up here between 2-1-3 and 2-1 low fireball, but the fireball is unsafe if you're not careful, so not something that we saw all the time. Forward 3 is an advancing mid meant to keep the opponent on their toes, and he's got some other normals like forward 2-4, back 2-3. All of these things work well to establish a solid up-close game. One of the really strong tools actually is that Liu Kang can combo off his X-ray into super high damage. The problem is, meter was so important in MK9 that having X-ray available was a rare luxury, so as good as this was, you didn't really see it. In terms of game plan, Liu Kang was once again a jack-of-all-trades-like character. He had solid fireballs for zoning and range control, he had good up-close buttons for pressure, he had super easy combos. I mean, this character was extremely accessible from a basic level, but he definitely had depth for those fundamentally sound, looking for a character that had options everywhere on screen. If you haven't guessed by now, Liu Kang has always been this kind of archetype, so it always makes sense that it carries over from game to game. His armored bicycle kick had really good damage for an armored reversal, and his anti-air game was strong because of his buttons. The footage that you're watching right now is actually EVO 2012, where SoCal player X-Blades was popping off with Liu Kang. He was often said by many to be one of, if not the best Liu Kang in the scene at the time, and the game plan was simple and effective. Liu Kang had the tools to approach pretty much every situation, so why didn't we see him more? Here's the issue. There were other characters in MK9 that had solid projectiles, good up-close buttons, good armor, good pressure. There are a fair few characters that had that game plan, and Liu Kang wasn't really doing it better than others. He did a great job, make no mistake, but characters like Johnny Cage, or hell, even Sonya to some extent, were definitely playing a similar game, but doing it more effectively. Many Liu Kang players back in the day that I remember picking him early would eventually switch to Johnny Cage, whether it was online or offline, and Liu Kang would remain unpopular purely because of other characters doing what he's doing, but either easier, better, or both. Liu Kang was still a damn solid character though, and he usually sits at the upper mid-tier of the tier lists, sharing a similar position with the likes of Kitana, Sector, Reptile. You know, the characters that are definitely really good, but they're not broken good. That's where he sits. Mortal Kombat X is definitely one of the better documented appearances for Liu Kang, I think. Anyone that's even slightly watched MKX knows how dangerous Liu Kang was in the right hands, and with people like Ninja Killer rocking the character for so long, how could you miss it? Yes, Liu Kang is one of the best characters in Mortal Kombat X. His exact placement is a matter of opinion, as many characters in this game are super good, but there is no denying that he has some of the absolute best offense in the game, among a lot of other things. Now, as MKX is variation-based, and Liu Kang keeps a lot of his normals and specials and everything else, I will cover the variations more than anything else, because they changed Liu Kang significantly here. And yes, I'm talking about Final Patch MKX in this video, although I might mention a few pre-patch things if it's necessary. Liu Kang keeps the classic moves, and they somewhat change from variation to variation. And I want to mention immediately, I'm gonna show a lot of Ninja Killer in this section because he is the MKX Liu Kang god, and there's really no point me showing you my Liu Kang because he exists. First of all, Dragon's Fire. This is by far the most common and popular variation he's always had, and it's all about run cancels. The big thing about this variation is that Fireball can be cancelled out of, which leads to almost anything Liu Kang has being turned into block pressure or combos or both. All of the crazy cancels that you'd see from high-level Dragon's Fire, they're cancelling the Fireball to do this. Now, it's not just Fireball cancels. Liu Kang in this variation can actually meter burn his flying kick to do a bicycle kick ender on block or hit. It can be used for extra presence on block, or it can lead to all sorts of other situations. This used to be a lot more plus back in the day, and it led to block infinites when the game originally launched, but thankfully frame data and stuff like that did change pretty fast to remove the infinites, although he still kept true block strings. Essentially, whether Liu Kang is using his back 1-2, his forward 2-1-3, forward 4-4, back 3-4, his plethora of strings basically, he's going to cancel them on block and maintain pressure, which builds up super good meter, it does tons of chip damage, and on hit, with the right execution, can turn any of these hits into run cancel combos that do ridiculous damage. In the corner, this damage gets even more insane, but I definitely don't have the execution to pull that off. Almost everything here is geared towards rushdown and combos. The 2-hit flying kick, bicycle kick into meter burn launcher, hitting wild instant air fireball loops, which were unbreakable by the way. If you mastered this variation, you were using one of the absolute scariest things in the game by far. However, there was definitely an execution barrier here, so it wasn't for the faint of heart. The next variation is Flame Fist, and to be honest, it's definitely the simplest of the three. This variation is known for two things mostly: the windmill punches, which replace the bicycle kick and looks cool as hell, and most importantly, the ability to buff Liu Kang's punches and fireballs for a short time. The Flame Fist buff can actually special cancel the activation into other moves, which is great for combos and chip damage. But on the topic of chip damage, this was where Flame Fist really excels, because windmill punches on block with the Flame Fist buff is one of the highest forms of chip damage in the entire game, making it very scary to block against if you're low on health. Not to mention that should you get caught by the meter burn windmill punch in the corner, you're eating some serious damage as well. Overall, although it is a simple variation on paper, it was absolutely terrifying with the rest of Liu Kang's base kit. The final thing I want to mention on this is that the damage of the projectiles when the buff is active was within at least 10% or beyond. So in some matchups that Liu Kang might want to just play more of a keep away game because his fireballs are really good, Flame Fist fireballs chunk down serious life, and they create this minefield of high and low fireballs. It's super useful. The final variation here is Duelist, which was always seen as the more, I suppose, gimmicky variation, but I honestly think it's mostly because the other two were so fundamentally insane that anything that relied on setting things up was naturally seen as maybe not as good. But that didn't stop this variation from being really strong in its own right, even if it's incredibly hard to play. This variation had the light stance and the dark stance. Light stance is more traditional fireballs, really. They were good and they were used for things on block or maybe the occasional combo, but really the main stance here was the dark stance. Fireballs in this mode are turned into a slow-moving orb that Liu Kang can stop from moving. They detonate after a short time, and they actually do damage over time if the opponent's going to be standing next to it. Successfully launching someone with an orb into even more orbs into a huge combo, like you would set up into more orbs after the combo's finished, this was the bread and butter of this variation. And the fact that strings like forward 2-1-3 into stance change would provide some offense that you could play around with, this was a really hard to utilize variation, but it gave Liu Kang a different style of offense that was really good for those more setup-minded. When we're talking about why Liu Kang is so good in this game though, we have to talk about the fact that even his base kit without variations is super powerful. He had some of the best combo strings in the game by far. He's got a safe, unseeable overhead in back 2. Down back 2 is a safe mid to end strings with on block, and meter burn down back 2 is a totally safe armored reversal with 2 hits of armor. His down 3 was one of the best pokes in the game. His down 1 was the ultimate fast, mashy poke that you could just turn into things like down 1, down back 2, for instance. You take an already good base kit and you add these variations to it, and you've ended up with a real nightmare to fight against. There were many really good Liu Kang players throughout the entire life of Mortal Kombat X, and although Ninja Killer is definitely the most famous these days, we still had players like Zorakamaka from the UK who made it into the ESL Pro League finals of Season 2, Zyfox who got top 8 in the game's very first EVO. You had other players like, Silvereye who was repping that character since day one, and many others all over the game's prime time. Because Liu Kang was definitely a strong character from the beginning, all the way up until the final patch. I would say Liu Kang is now more popular than ever because of Dragon's Fire in particular. Anyone still playing this game at a high level has all of the execution at this point, so there's almost no execution barrier left to break. Liu Kang in MKX is a top 5 character to almost everybody you ask. He's personally in my top 3, but as I said earlier, the tier list of MKX is definitely a contested opinion. A lot of characters are good in the final patch, and the order of where those characters are placed will change from player to player. Liu Kang in Mortal Kombat 11 is another instance where he's very much an all-rounder. It's almost like that's been his design since the 90s or something. In Mortal Kombat 11, however, Liu Kang once again reigns as a dangerous and respectable pick in tournament play, being used competitively since the game very first came out all the way into the final days before Mortal Kombat 1 hit the scene. Fundamentally, the reason for this is because MK11 Liu Kang fit the meta extremely well, and he was one of the few characters in the game which I would often refer to as having a win condition. I'll get into that in a sec, but for now, let's talk about what Liu Kang's doing in this game. Liu Kang, like every other game, has his fireballs, flying kick, bicycle kick, pretty much everything you'd expect, and his selection of normals and combo strings are also standard at this point, where he's got good hit confirmable strings, a strong mid, fast jabs that can allow for combo extenders if the opponent's juggled. Basically, his whole deal is a powerful strike-throw game plan. Now, he does have some customizable abilities that Liu players would often swap between, and because it's MK11, I want to highlight those the most. Low Fireball is a separate ability in this game, where Liu Kang will crouch down, making it good in a projectile battle. The Low Fireball also has some combo potential in the corner, although it's extremely tight. The Kasari Slam is a command grab, which for Liu Kang works extremely well on an already strong strike-throw game. The Nunchuck Stance allows Liu Kang to enforce an overhead low mix-up, although the options are definitely unsafe on block. If you have the Kasari Slam equipped at the same time, Liu Kang can actually go into this move from the stance, expanding the mix-up even further, and this combination was definitely popular among Liu Kang players. Dragon Parry may look like a standard parry because it is, but should you parry a block attack or a get-up attack, it activates Crushing Blow into obscene damage. It wasn't used all the time, but we definitely saw this a lot during the preset variation days. Dragon Fire is a damage buff that lasts a short time. However, if you add the second move on top that makes it even better, this buff will give Liu Kang a teleport that has a number of different follow-ups. Now, this was actually a common combination for Liu Kang players that had to fight extreme keep away. Overall, these abilities in different variety took the base kit that Liu Kang had and they added extra tools, rather than changing the character completely. This worked because of Liu Kang's base kit being really strong. It was kind of similar to MKX in that regard, but nowhere near as extreme. So let's talk about the best thing that Liu Kang was doing. I said earlier that Liu Kang had what I called a win condition. Now, what I mean by that is that the Crushing Blow mechanic was so crucial to this character. Liu Kang had many practical KBs that did massive damage. However, Liu Kang could meet certain conditions that could lock in these KBs for every possible incoming mix-up. Liu Kang is a strike-throw character, but let's look at what KBs belong to Liu Kang. both throw directions, flying kick, and importantly, bicycle kick. Bicycle kick activates if you've amplified the base move 3 times in a match. Throw KBs activate when the opponent gets escape failed. If Liu Kang is on his final round and you have escape failed and you've hit 3 amplified bicycle kicks by that point, Liu Kang has just been given a devastating unbreakable mix-up that gives KB on either strike or throw, keeping the other one available regardless. Liu Kang can let these KBs rip on the final round and do tons of damage that Breakaway is unable to deal with, so it's all unbreakable. Now, Liu Kang was always a super popular tournament pick, and it is because he fit the meta of the game so closely. I don't think there was any point in the game where Liu Kang wasn't considered a top contender, to be honest. He was always right up there, although I would say rarely in discussion for absolute number 1, maybe the occasional month it'd be a hot topic, but honestly, I wouldn't say that matters so much when you are one of the more popular tournament picks over the game's entire lifespan. Liu Kang was a fundamental beast, and he complemented MK11 in every single way. Because of that, he was always high tier or straight up top tier, depending on time frame. And finally, we close out Liu Kang's competitive history with his own new era, Mortal Kombat 1. Liu Kang has never been a weak character in this game, but his position in the tier list, even to this day, is always up for debate. He's retained his jack-of-all-trades design, and he fits a large bag of cameos the game brings to the table. He has his classic moves, but as it's Mortal Kombat 1, they've been definitely redesigned this time over, either looking different or straight up functioning different. So, let's look at some of these changes. Liu Kang is a god in this game. Lore-wise, I'm talking about, so his fireball is more of a godly energy projectile. The meter burn version knocks them down, then it goes through projectiles, making it a really good counter-zoning tool. The low fireball returns, and once again he crouches down as he does it, making it good for projectile wars. But the meter burn version does more damage, and it can be really dangerous in certain combos. Air Fireball is a new animation entirely, where he sends a flurry of projectiles forward instead. Now, Bicycle Kick is a close-range strike this time round, and the Meter Burn version is his armored reversal. Now, Flying Kick here is back as well, but it involves a projectile having to fly forward first, with the follow-up attack being the actual Flying Kick portion as a second hit. So, at a base level, Liu Kang actually plays pretty similar to his MK11 counterpart. The moves just look a little bit different. But fundamentally, he still has a really strong strike-throw game, as he has throws that with his popular cameos can be turned into combos, and his forward 4/4 string is absolutely one of the best mids in the game because it armor breaks and, like throw, can be easily turned into a full combo by itself. One thing Liu Kang has here is a rare strength that isn't given out much in MK1, and that is a strong 6-frame combo tool. Liu Kang Standing 1 is one of the few 6-frame buttons in the game, which means that his 1-2 string into a combo extender is a full combo punish on moves that are otherwise safe versus a lot of the cast. Most of them, in fact. Before Kung Lao's armor got changed, as an example, that move was like -7 on block. It meant that Liu Kang was one of the few characters that could actually punish this thing, and that was a game changer to the matchup. Or at least, it used to be. Things are different now. Liu Kang keeps his varied game plan where he's got really strong zoning, incredibly high damage, practical full combos on grabs, and a really grounded game of control. This character can pretty much do everything, which is, Liu Kang's whole deal in the franchise at this point, but it is especially prominent here because he's so varied that most cameos, if not all of them, actually work with Liu Kang to varied levels of success. Kung Lao cameo has been the most common and reliable since day one for this character, because meterless confirmed into spin is awesome to save meter, low hat into hard to block, or even just keeping Liu Kang nice and safe is really strong on a character like this, and the big one here is easy throw combos. Kung Lao takes Liu Kang's greatest strengths, simply makes them more rewarding. Once Motaro received buffs to cooldowns, he became a really strong pairing with Liu Kang. The throw combo is almost exactly the same as it involves an ambush teleport, but the utility changes to a plus-on-block projectile, and a reflect that can be used on reaction against the opponent's zoning. Motaro and Kung Lao have a lot in common with Liu Kang. Both of them are doing the smaller details just a little bit differently. The big one really is that Motaro's safe far teleport is where Liu Kang's zoning goes up to another level. For a time, Chameleon was a really common cameo due to the damage and versatility of Fan Lift. We do still see Chameleon every now and then, but since the cameo got nerfed, it's definitely taken more of a back seat as of late. Fundamentally, strong ambush presence is really useful for Liu Kang, and if I was going to list all viable cameos for this character, we'd be here for another hour. Just know that his strong basic tools work with almost every cameo in the game, and because of that, we've seen all sorts used in competitive. It's just definitely, these days, mostly Kung Lao and Motaro. Liu Kang's high damage and absolute versatility is why since day one he has been a topic of discussion for the stronger characters overall. Now, I've got to say, it is rare that Liu Kang is seen in an actual top 5, but you do tend to see him kicking around the top 10. It's hard to talk about the final placement right now because with patches, new characters, and the fact that this game is currently evolving, it's something that's always going to change. Just know that right now, at the time of this video being uploaded, he's currently upper mid-tier at worst. And that is the long-awaited competitive history of Liu Kang. Interestingly, in making this video, we've discovered that he's rarely outside of high tier in his placements, and when you look at the numbers alone, he's actually one of the most consistently strong characters in the entire franchise. Cool. I do want to end this video by saying a huge thank you for the extreme weight of this episode. This month has been absolutely cursed with getting the flu twice, having internet troubles due to faulty hardware. I just think the universe didn't want me to finish this video, to be honest with you. But look, I really hope you have a wonderful holiday season and a fantastic new year. Look after yourselves, everyone, and I will see you next time. Goodbye.